I was sitting quietly in my peaceful library, lost in old books, when my brother Walter's voice suddenly broke the silence. Still hiding in these old books, Melissa, don't you ever get tired of missing real life? His voice was half joking, half critical. I looked up and saw him leaning on a bookshelf. He looked sharp in his expensive suit, completely different from my plain librarian clothes. His usual smirk was there, the same one he'd had since we were kids. It always showed how arrogant he was. "Hello, Walter," I said calmly, putting the old book back in its case. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Dad sent me to check on you," he said, standing up straighter. "Mom's worried you'll embarrass them at their anniversary party tonight." Walter looked around the library like he hated it. "A librarian in the family," he scoffed. "Dad still has a hard time explaining that to his friends." "I'm Melissa Thompson, 36 years old, and head librarian at the city's main library. My family is wealthy and old-fashioned, and they've never liked my job, but they don't know my quiet life hides a lot more than they think." "I'll be there," I told him firmly, "and I'll dress properly." "See that you do," he said, adjusting his flashy Rolex. "It's a big night. I'm announcing my new business deal. Thompson Industries is now a big company." "That's great, Walter, congratulations," I said, forcing a calm face even though I wanted to clench my fists. "Thanks," he said flatly. "You know, you could still join the real world. We could use you in our company library. At least then you'd be doing something useful." "I'm excited to tell you all that we're about to make our biggest deal yet. By next week, we'll own Lawrence Tech." The room broke into applause. My dad looked proud, and my mom wiped away happy tears with her fancy handkerchief. I took a sip of my champagne and waited quietly. Walter kept going. "Of course, the deal isn't done yet, but my people say it's just a matter of time. The papers are ready." "That's wonderful, son," Dad said. "I always knew you had it in you, a real businessman, just like me." Walter soaked up the praise, but then he looked at me. "What do you think, little sister?" he asked, mocking me. "Ready to admit you bet on the wrong side?" I looked him straight in the eye. I said calmly, "you shouldn't celebrate too soon." He laughed, and some others laughed with him. "Always so careful, that's why you'll never be more than you are, hiding in your library while we build empires." "Maybe," I said softly, "but at least I know how important it is to check things properly." Walter's eyes narrowed. He hated when I used words that made him feel stupid. "Check things properly," he scoffed. "I have the best lawyers, it's all covered." I just smiled and lifted my glass. "Then I guess you'll find out tomorrow." He frowned, but before he could say more, Mom called everyone to dinner. The dining room was fancy, polished wood, expensive dishes, and crystal that had been in our family forever. As I walked to my seat, I felt a mix of nerves and excitement. Tomorrow was going to change everything. I sat at the far end of the huge table. It was clear they'd put me far from the important guests, a quiet insult I didn't miss. While we ate, Walter bragged loudly at his end about how great he was at business. I only spoke when needed and focused on my food. Next to me, Mrs. Hughes leaned over and whispered, "You were so smart in school, Melissa, you could have done anything, why waste it all on books?" I paused, knowing she'd see me differently soon, but for now, I stayed the quiet librarian. "Books aren't a waste," I said calmly. "They teach us to look deeper, to see that things aren't always what they seem." She shook her head, disappointed. "Well, at least your brother is keeping up the family name," she sighed. "It must be hard watching him succeed while you stay in his shadow." "It's not as hard as you think," I said, a small smile hiding my thoughts. Dinner went on with little jabs and fake compliments. I was used to them and let them slide right off me. When dessert came, Walter stood up and raised his glass. "Here's to Mom and Dad, who taught me everything about business and showed me what real success is." He paused and looked at me. "And to my sister, who, well, proves not everyone is meant for the business world." People chuckled politely. I raised my glass too, but my mind was already on the deal and the press release that would change everything by morning. Later, Walter cornered me near the dessert table. "Having fun?" he smirked. "It's lovely," I said calmly, hiding my excitement. "Mom and Dad must be so happy." "They are," he said proudly, fixing his tie, "though it would have been nice if both their kids were successful." I picked up a chocolate and looked at it like it held secrets. "You know, Walter, Success isn't always about who makes the most noise. He laughed. Oh really? Tell that to my bank account. What does a librarian make these days? Enough to buy those shoes? Enough, I said, glancing at my shoes. I'm good with money, you know. He downed his drink. Well, I've got people to see and deals to close. Big day tomorrow with Lawrence. As he walked away, I pulled out my phone and texted Lauren, everything ready for tomorrow? She replied right away, all set. The press release goes out at 8 a.m. sharp. Want the final numbers? No need, I texted back, smiling. I'll see them in the news with everyone else. The party ended at midnight. I said goodbye to everyone and took one last round of their pitying comments. You should really think about Walter's offer, my mom said as I kissed her cheek. A corporate library would suit you better. I'll think about it, I lied, knowing my path was already set. Driving home, I thought about how tomorrow would turn their world upside down. For 8 years, I'd built my company in secret while they saw me as the disappointing daughter who loved books. Tomorrow, they'd see how wrong they were. The next morning, I got to the library at 7 a.m. Like I always did, my practical shoes echoed in the marble halls. The regular visitors didn't know or care why their librarian kept such strict hours. Lauren was already there with her tablet. In the library, she was my assistant librarian, but outside, she was the chief operating officer of my company, Thompson Global Partners. Everything's ready, she said as we walked into my office. The lawyers are in Osaka. The press release goes out in 50 minutes. I set my bag down and turned on my secure laptop. Any news from Walter's side? I asked. They're setting up now, still sure they'll close the deal, she said, hiding a smile. I smiled too, picturing Walter's face when he found out the truth. Let's give them a few more minutes of hope. At exactly 7:15 a.m., my private line rang. It was Mr. Lawrence's translator. Miss Thompson, everyone is ready. Perfect, let's do it. The next few minutes were a rush of signing papers and final checks. By 8 a.m., Thompson Global Partners officially owned Lawrence Tech, its companies, patents, and new tech. The press release is out now, Lauren said. I opened news websites and watched the headlines pop up. Breaking, mystery buyer acquires Lawrence Tech. Finance giant Thompson Global Partners reveals its founder's identity. Wall Street shocked, librarian turns out to be a business mogul. My phone rang non-stop. The first call was Walter, of course. What the hell is this? He shouted. Good morning, brother, I said calmly. I see you read the news. This can't be real. Thompson Global Partners, you're not the founder. Actually, I am. I have been for 8 years. I get why you're confused. I'm just a librarian, right? I could hear him scrambling, papers rustling. But I had a deal. The papers were ready. Were they? I said sweetly. Check the fine print. We've been working on this for months, just waiting for the right moment. We? Who's we? His voice cracked. My team, my company, my empire, I said, letting every word sink in. The one I built while you mocked my career. He hung up. Lauren tried not to grin. How long until your parents call? Any second now, I said. Right on cue. My mom's number popped up. Melissa Hannah Thompson, she snapped. What have you done? Good morning, Mom. I'm busy, maybe we can talk over dinner? Dinner? Do you know what's happening? Your father's phone won't stop ringing. Everyone wants to know how our librarian daughter built a multi-billion-dollar company. I could hear Dad trying to take calls too. Tell her to come home now, he barked in the background. I have meetings all day, I said truthfully, but I'd love to have everyone over for dinner at my place tonight. 6 o'clock? Your place? You mean that tiny apartment? No, Mom, my penthouse on Comm Avenue. I'll text you the address. She paused, shocked. Comm Avenue, the most expensive building in the city? Oh, is it? I hadn't noticed. See you at 6, Mom. Ask ChatGPT.